Hello, this is Jamie Magrich. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I'm going to show you how I made this card. Let's get started. I'm going to be using Evening Evergreen ink and Memento. Those are the only two inks I'm using. Bring in this. Okay, for cardstock I have my card base. It's the thick 5.5 by 8.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. I have a scrap of Whisper White, or not Whisper White, Basic White to stamp on. I have a 2" by 4" piece of white to make my snowbank. I have a 1 1/4 by 4 1/4" piece of mossy meadow that this will get matted on. I have a 4 by 5 1/4" piece of pear pizzaz that I have run through the Tasteful Textile 3D embossing folder. I'm going to be using scallop contour dies, and I've already cut out, it is the second of the largest in the mossy meadow and the third from the largest in white. So let's put those over here. This one will get stamped on. I'm going to be using the Snowman Builder Punch. I didn't label it, or I forgot to do that. Campology, I'm using these trees, and I'm using the Hello out of Artistically Inked. Okay. You also need a scrap of white paper. I've already done it just for the sake of time, but to line up my stamps, I put this scrap paper and punched it. I marked what was the top, where they would line up in the punch. Then I took my stamps, I'll show you. You line them up inside those spots. That way you know when you go to punch them out that they're going to be where you need them to be. You don't have to stamp them in individually and try to figure out. You just line them up in those holes. Sticking to my fingers. Okay, and then just to make sure that they're in there, I just pick it up. And they're just going to kind of float in those spaces. Okay, then you're going to pick them up with your block. That one just moved. Come on, stay where I want you. It's not difficult, it's just a little fiddly, but it's worth it. Okay, then you just pick them up with your block. Okay, now when you go to stamp, you can stamp them all. I'll show you, we'll go ahead and do that. Ink them up with the Memento ink. Stamp them on here. And when you go to punch them out, they're all going to line up. So you can get everything punched at one time. I want it down just a little bit more. Sorry, I'm fiddly. I like it to match. There we go. And you can just take this and store it with your stamps. so that you know you can do it every time. Okay? Alright, that's those. Now we're going to take this piece, since we have the ink out. We're going to tear a hill. Whatever's in your right hand, or you're going to tear towards you. That'll make the fuzziness be on the top of the card so it looks more like snow. Okay, we're just going to tear a little bit of that off. I want a little bit more to come off here. However you want it to be, that's your snow hill. Then down here on this bottom we're going to stamp the hello, again with the memento. Down here. Perfect. Okay, so this can get placed aside. These pieces we're going to color. Let's stamp the, where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Let's stamp the trees on this one. And we might need a scratch paper for this so it doesn't go off our paper. Sync these trees up. You don't probably have to worry about this little one because you're not going to get much of it, but and I got ink all over the top here. See how it's along the edge? I want to make sure I wipe that off. I was a little aggressive with my stamp pad, but you don't want those halos. Tap lightly. That works the best. Okay. Hover over where you want it. Stamp. Perfect. Okay. And that was an evening evergreen. Alright, let's place that aside to dry. And we're going to bring in some blends. I have light Coastal Cabana, that's what I'm going to use for his nose. I'm going to use the light Pool Party. And I'm just going to go make like a C shape. I'm going to use the other end. Where the shadow lines are, and then down one side or the other, it doesn't matter which one. Just so that he looks like snow. And then we're going to put that one aside for a minute because we're not done with it. I didn't use this one, so I don't know why that one's in there. Okay, so that's all the snowman. Now on these little branches, I used light soft suede, and I just colored them in. Just basically didn't be fussy about being neat. I just gave them some brown color so they look like branches. The brush tip makes it, lets it flow a little better so that you get a better coverage. Okay, now I need this one still, that's why it's out. The hat, this is dark smoky slate, and for this one I did use the little tip because it's small little areas. I colored in all these all the hat with the dark smoky slate. You could add shadows with another color like the light black if you wanted to, but I didn't. And then I've got light old olive. I'm going to color in these leaves and the band on the hat. And then dark melon mambo. And I'm just going to dot in those berries. And that's all the coloring. Okay. So now we're going to bring in this piece that was cut out of the mossy meadow and the scallop contour dies. So we're going to bring in this piece. We're going to use your glue of choice. My glue of choice is the Tombow Mono Multi Glue. Get glue on the back of this if I can get it started. Now if it doesn't start, if you can't pull out the little glue plug there, usually you can, but if for some reason you can't, then just get a straight pin. Center that on here. Okay, let's bring in the card base and a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of pear pizzaz. Don't need much glue, just enough to give it a little bit. Center that up on here. This one's got a little bit more of a border than the previous one. I just figured the measurements were easier that way. Bring in our mossy meadow piece. This is 1 1/4 by 4 1/4. This one is going to get mounted down here at the bottom. Lines up with the bottom corners and the edges of the card. Whoops, it just skidded. Oh, there we go. Okay, now we're going to bring in our hello. Now before we do that, let's go ahead and mount this to here. And I did those in wrong order. I should have put this on and then this on, but it doesn't matter. So now we're going to mount this up here. I want quite a bit of that. I want it quite high because I want my base of my snow to be about where the base of this is. So I might even want to, that's alright, that'll work. I'd like it to come right about here, but I don't think it's going to. I stamped it a little lower, but that's alright. Okay, so now we're going to bring in this piece. We're going to assemble our snowman. I'm going to put just a tiny bit of glue on the back of the snowman hat. It's going to go on his head however you want it to go. And the branches, I'm going to just put a little dab of glue on a scrap paper. I'm just going to touch that into the glue and then stick it where I want it. Touch it into the glue. I'm going to tap it off once and then stick it where I want it. Okay, Now I'm going to figure out where I want to put him on here. And I'm going to bring in my light pool party marker and the brush tip. And I'm just going to do long squiggly lines underneath him. Like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue just the bottom half of him down. Okay, now I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to add dimensionals on the back of it. Add one up here. That holds him onto that card. Okay, take the backs off. To line this up so that there's just a little bit of a border around the three sides that matches. You see that? I'll go ahead and set it down. Okay. I think you can see it better this way. Okay, now I'm going to bring in some, these are snowflakes. They've been in my stash for a while. I probably got them at Hobby Lobby or Joann's or Michael's or something. They're from 2017. And some glue dots. And some sequins that are also, these are ones I had. I'm just going to take some of these snowflakes. There's no right or wrong side on them. Just checking to see if one side was more iridescent than the other, but they're not. And I'm using glue dots because these are plastic. 3, 4, one more. Bent. Let's use this one. 5. Okay. Put one here. Put one here. One down here on this side of the pillow. And the other two will go up at the top. That way you'll travel around the page. Okay, now I'm going to get these sequins. These are already adhesive backed. I'm just going to put one of those on the center of each one of these snowflakes. Oops, come on. Give me that glue dot. Thank you. There we go. There's the card we just made together. Here's the one I did previously. Well, thank you so much for joining me today at Jamie's Craft Table. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you can find a little bit of time to play with some stamps, ink, and paper.